This is the Scrambling Armchair, Chiefs news analysis and opinion every day, and I wanted to throw out a little bit of a pre-draft primer here and let everyone know that I will be back later on tonight. I don't know how later on tonight, it just depends on how this first round goes. Will the Chiefs trade up? Will the Chiefs trade back? How long does it take me to get some analysis done on whoever is the pick? But I wanted to throw this out there because this was an article today from Arrowhead Pride. And one of the things that they did in this article was compile a whole bunch of mock drafts and tally up everyone that the Chiefs are prospectively drafting at the end of that first round. And I took everyone here that had more than a 1% weighting. So off the top, I don't think anything would surprise me. I think that Brett Veach has done so much work covering the bases this offseason. Maybe not in the most spectacular fashion, maybe not with the players that we wanted to see Brett Veach sign, maybe not with the urgency that we would have liked to see those things get done, but he did that. He went out and he signed basically someone at every position where the Chiefs had questions at the way that they ended last season. So their hand is not forced in this first round. And I think, honestly, that's the way Brett Veach wanted it. Obviously, you always want something like that, but being there at the end of the first round, again, right? The Kansas City Chiefs keep drafting 30th, 31st, 32nd, etc. Being there again, teams are going to be reading what the Chiefs need and are going to be trying to jump over them. I think that they are in prime position right now to stay pat, to take the best player available. They are in prime position right now with a second rounder, 2 third rounders, and a fourth rounder to maybe trade up and get someone that they think is a high value but is falling, pardon me, in the draft. And I think they're also in prime position to trade back. Being there at the end of the first round, being there at 31 overall, especially with this quarterback class, because while I don't think that there are a whole lot of guys that I would want to spend a first-round pick on, there's a whole lot of guys that are maybe worth testing the waters for. And you want to get them in the first round because it gives you the fifth-year option. Quarterbacks take a while to develop, etc. Plus, you want to have that extra year before the quarterback contract balloons into a free agent quarterback contract. So they could be primed to trade back and really try to replenish this roster, maybe not with the higher end players in this draft, but with some of those second tier players. And it would be several second tier players. If you're trading back from 31, you're going to be picking up some leverage along the way. And I think that is what we will see Brett Veach do through the course of this draft. Frankly, it would not surprise me if Brett Veach does not make a single regularly scheduled pick. I think that he has proven that he is very aggressive in moving up and moving back. And when you look at this class as a whole, it's really not top heavy. Really, you're looking at the second, third, and early fourth as the meat of this draft, which means they're guys who maybe have to develop a little bit before they can step foot on the field full time. But the Kansas City Chiefs have been to 3 consecutive Super Bowls, won 2 of them. They have the roster strength at the top end to facilitate taking a couple players that don't play very much their rookie season. We are still seeing this with FAU. Maybe Felix will just need those 2 seasons to cook before he is fully done. But this list here is full of players that are maybe worth talking about, a few of them. While I said that I don't think anything Brett Veach will do could surprise me at this point, because I really don't have a read on this class. in this list, and there were a whole bunch of players that were in the 1% range too, but in this list there is a single name that would disappoint me in the first round, and that is Gray Zabel. I do not think he is a first rounder. I do not think he is a fringe second rounder. I think that he is probably end of the second round type talent to me. It 1,000% possible I have the wrong read on that. 1,000% possible that the hundreds of other talking heads talking about the draft and saying that Gray Zabel is absolutely a first rounder, maybe they have it right. I don't see it. So outside of that, I mean, Josh Simmons and Josh Connerly, those are the two marquee names here, polling at 18 and 12% respectively. And either of those guys, I think, are elite pass blocking potential left tackles. These guys are ones that you could pick up, and if they have to sit their rookie year, I don't think they're going to sit their whole rookie year. Even if this means it is a byproduct of Andy Reid getting the 5 best offensive linemen on the field, not the best left tackle, left guard, center, and right tackle. Right? So these guys could earn their way onto the field in the middle of this season, but maybe it's at right tackle, maybe it's at left guard, whatever it is, both of those guys could earn very early playing time for the Chiefs. Walter Nolan and Derek Harmon are names that probably exist at the Chiefs' biggest position of need. You go down on this list a little bit, and you also have Darius Alexander and Kenneth Grant. I don't think Darius Alexander is a first rounder. Again, if you're picking at 31, it's not that big a stretch. The other guys, I think 31. So Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon. I think Walter Nolan could go higher, but other than that, I think this is kind of the range that you're looking at for those defensive tackles. James Pierce is one of these guys. It seems that so Donovan Jackson would kind of upset me too, because I don't think we need an offensive guard. Are you looking at him as an offensive tackle? I'm just not real sure what to do with that. James Pierce. Maybe James Pierce is there at 31. It wouldn't upset me if they take him at 31. But guys, we see every season a James Pierce end up breaking the top 20 because of the absolute need for a quick twitch edge player in the NFL. So I don't know that he would be there. If the Chiefs are able to scoop him up at 31, it could be a pretty good value pick. Kelvin Banks, the tackle from Texas. I really like Kelvin Banks. I worry that Kelvin Banks could be too much Kingsley Suamataia and too little pass protector. I think that he has the full array of tools. I think that he can be a starting left tackle in the NFL. If this were the pick, I would feel a lot better about it, because that means that whoever is going to bat for these prospects in the Chiefs front office, they went to bat for him, and they are saying, hey, look, no, he can do this. Ariante Ursary. Oh, so Kelvin Banks I wouldn't be upset with, but I do think that it is I think he maybe needs a little bit longer to develop than Simmons or Connerly, assuming that Simmons is healthy at the start of the season. Ariante Ursary, I've talked about a lot on this channel. I think that would be a good pick. I don't think it would be a home run pick. I think that he can be a starting left tackle in the NFL. You are starting to see a whole lot more mock drafts with Ariante Ursary available at the 63rd pick. So just depends, right, on what ends up happening on draft night Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. I think this is the second rounder, and I don't think it's a top of the second round type guy. Matthew Golden, if he is there, that would be an absolute wild development for the Kansas City Chiefs and this passing game. Again, Matthew Golden, I think, ran a 4.29 at the Combine. You pair him with Xavier Worthy, 4.21, Hollywood Brown, 4.27. You've got Tyquan Thornton, who had a 4.26, maybe, something like that. Then you have Rashee Rice as well, who did not run a 4.2 anything. He ran a 4.53, I believe, but definitely showed the chops to be a deep pass threat last season. So Matthew Golden being there, that would be a wild day. Patrick Mahomes wants to get back to throwing the deep ball, and that could definitely get you there. Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M at the edge position. Big, strong defensive end. This is a Steve Spagnuolo type for sure. This is a guy who would start opposite George Karlaftis immediately. Depends on the rotation that they want to get in, but I do think he would be the starter opposite of George Karlaftis, and his presence would definitively be an upgrade for the defense. Him being a starter, Charles Omenihu looked fantastic the first season he was with the Chiefs when he finally returned. Didn't look that great last year. The first time he was returning from suspension, right? It was suspension and then injury, right? So the first time he was returning from suspension, last year he was returning from injury. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for a guy to get his legs back under him, and maybe that was the case for Charles Omenihu last year, but I do think that Nick Scorton, from what we have seen of Charles Omenihu over the last calendar year, Nick Scorton would be a starter next to or opposite of George Karlaftis. So that's absolutely a pick that you would make in the first round. You're getting an automatic starter. Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky is a guy that I'm starting to like more and more. I think that he is comparable. Maybe that's not a fair word, but Trent McDuffie, because Trent McDuffie can just do anything you ask him to. I think that is the kind of corner that Maxwell Hairston can be in the NFL. And then Siobhan Revell, absolute freak of a guy. So that would be a fun pick if you think that he does project. I think he is a classic second rounder because of what you're getting. You're getting two of the three parts of the triangle, but I think that he is a guy that could be one of those players that is just a better professional player than he was in college, because he's allowed or expected maybe to do more of the things that he's capable of doing at the NFL level versus being on the field and just playing defense. Emeka Egbuka would be a solid pick. It depends. So for a couple players, like the Emeka Egbuka thing, I think that depends whether or not it's a home run pick. Obviously comes down to production, right? But I think that on draft night, if Emeka Egbuka were the pick, it would come down to who else was available. So we've seen this with the Sky Moore situation, drafting Sky Moore when other players were available. If you draft Emeka Egbuka, who is a solid football player, over other players at positions of more need, or players at the same position who are perhaps shinier, right? Matthew Golden's available, but you take Emeka Egbuka, right? I don't know that Emeka Egbuka is going to be a better professional than Matthew Golden. I think that he'll be a more consistent professional than Matthew Golden. And then finally, Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. That would definitely be an interesting pick. It would make for a very multivalent offense, and it would be fun to watch. It would be perhaps a little redundant this year, though I do think that Colston Loveland would bring some things to this offense that other tight ends, Noah Gray and Jared Wiley, do not. That is what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.